Hey guys, this is part two of the review section. The first video should already be posted. Test view, test number 2 for pre-calc. We've already done this problem together in both periods 1 and 2, so I'm going to kind of skip this one. It's just to start it out. You guys need to complete the square on this one, pull the terms to the other side and simplify out. Let's go ahead and jump to the next problem. I think my first period did this one, but we're going to go ahead and do this together. For the circles, identify the circles that passes to the point -4, -6. The way that we got to be able to do this is we're going to go ahead and write out the equation for the center using the points -1 and 5. Using the points -1 and 5. Once we have that, we're going to plug in our points that pass through -4, -6, and then we're going to find r. So let's go ahead and do that. The equation that we're going to use is x plus 1. We always use the opposite values or when we're plugging into the equation. Plus y minus 5 squared is equal to r squared. So this is the traditional equation that we're going to use. We also got to be able to use our other points. So I'm going to look at -4, -6, and I'm going to plug them into my x and y. This will give me the equation -4 plus 1 squared plus y, which is -6 minus 5 squared, is equal to r squared. So we're going to go ahead and simplify this out. Do a little bit of simplification. We're going to get, let's see, -3 squared is 9, plus -6 minus 5, that's keep, change, flip, is going to give me -11 squared, is equal to r squared. Doing one more step, 9 plus 121 is equal to r squared. And then we're also going to do our last one, which is 130 is equal to r squared. Equal to r squared. So our final solution is going to be the square root of 130 will equal r. So this is our solution to r. We have the original equation, so we got to put it all together. So write the equation that represents it. So we're going to use essentially the same part, and we're just going to plug in from our r here. So x plus 1 squared plus y minus 5 squared is equal to, in this case, square root of 130 squared is just 130. Not too fancy, it's okay, but we're going to go and continue. That's the problem for this. Given the point, given the center, plug the center in, plug your points in, solve out for r, plug r back in using the center -1, 5. Okay. So we're done with this one. Let me reset it. We're going to go and move on. This is our linear equations, the second portion to it. Good test questions that we can have on here. Let's look at where's my values. See if it's going to write for me. There it is. The first thing I want to be able to see here is we got to know the difference between parallel and perpendicular slopes. Parallel slopes will give us the same slope, so we just have to equal them the same, but we got to determine what the slope is. And perpendicular, we got to be able to find the slope and then find the opposite reciprocal. That's going to help us determine whether we have a perpendicular slope with this. The easiest way to kind of figure this out is to change this equation back into y equals mx plus b. Subtracting out x from both sides, we're going to get -x plus 6. And then dividing everything out by 2, we're going to get -1/2 x plus 3. So this is our equation we want to be able to use here, okay, for determining what would need to be parallel through 1, -6. Our parallel slope to this, using that equation, would be -1/2. Parallel means the same, so we don't need to change it to be parallel. This will make it parallel. And instead of doing it like the circle part where we used r, we're now going to use our slope to find our slope and our point to find b. In that case, we want to be able to plug them into y equals mx plus b. Mx plus b. And then we're going to plug our slope as 1/2, and then we're going to plug our 2 points to solve for b. So let's do that. negative 6 is equal to negative 1/2 x, and then plus b is what we want to solve out for. I'm going to kind of zoom this in a little bit. Let's go ahead and plug in our x. I'm sorry. We should be able to plug in our x at this point. Our x happened to just be 1. So we're going to get negative 6 is equal to negative 1/2 plus b. I'm going to go ahead and add 1/2 to 6. And I'm going to kind of jump a ship on here, but you guys can use this. It'll be negative 5.5. We're just taking 1/2 away from 6 is equal to b. We can convert that into an improper fraction as 11/2. Okay, is equal to b. So we have our b, we have our point, we have the parallel slope. So if we want to kind of rewrite this, the parallel slope to the original equation is going to be negative 1/2, and b will be equal to negative 11/2. We want to be able to rewrite these in that form. Y is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 11/2. Done. That's our equation. So negative 1/2 x minus 11/2 is a line that is parallel to x plus 2y equal to 6, and it goes to the point 1 comma negative 6. So you want to be able to see that and determine those values by plugging in, again, your parallel slope and your point, find b, plug it into the y equals mx plus b equation. For our next one, I think we just have these three more problems to go. Perpendicular through the line. So this case, we got to be able to find the opposite reciprocal of this. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is, sorry, let's go and change this up. Let's see what happens here. So we're going to solve this problem out here. We want to be able to solve for the equation. We want to be able to put into y equals mx plus b. Moving that 2x over, I'm going to get negative 2x plus 8. Dividing everything by 5, I'm going to get negative 2/5 x plus 8/5. The good thing about it, I don't really care about the ending term. The only thing I care about is this value here. That is my slope, negative 2/5. And to find a line that is perpendicular, we got to be able to do the opposite reciprocal. So perpendicular to this, which is an upside down symbol for this, the perpendicular will be 5/2. Opposite to negative is positive. Flipping the 2/5 becomes 5/2. So this is the perpendicular slope we want to be able to use. We have our point. We have our perpendicular. We got to be able to plug those into y equals mx plus b and solve out. So negative 2 is for my y. 5/2 is my slope. Negative 1 is my x plus b. So we're going to rewrite this and solve it out. Sorry, my handwriting's so bad. Negative 2, negative 5/2 plus b. We're going to add 5/2 plus 5/2 is equal to b. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this out by changing this to 4/2 to have the same common denominator. That's all I'm doing here. And then we're going to go ahead and just get 1/2 is equal to b. So we have our b here. We have the perpendicular slope that we found out to be earlier, which is 5/2. All we want to be able to do is write these two as a term of a equation. So 5/2. Oh, that's bad. 5/2 x plus 1/2. Okay. I think this ends the portion for the 1.5 to 1.10 chapter. Let's look at some review problems. I believe we have 4. So we're going to look here. These are the 2 review. Then we have another set of 2 review problems. So let's look at those 2 and then we're done. Okay. So kind of reviewing this really close, we want to be able to reduce down the best way we can. In this case, we have a fractional exponent, I'm sorry, not fraction, fractional expression that we want to be able to find a common denominator to. In this case, 32b and 4b, all what we're missing on this side to making a common denominator is multiplying it by 8b on the left-hand side. So 8b will give me that 32b, and this one is done by nothing, so we're just going to leave it as 1. So I'm going to have 8b plus 1 up on the top. And then we're going to have b minus 8 all over 32b. From here, it might be a little bit trickier, but we should be fine. We want to be able to cross-multiply it. Cross-multiplying our term is going to help us out. 32b, so this is one term times b minus 8 is equal to 32b, 8b plus 1. We're going to factor all those out. So 32b squared minus, let me get out my calculator here, 32 times negative 8, which is going to give me negative 256b. And then 32 times 8, again, is 256b squared plus 32b. So again, this kind of looks funky, it looks big, it looks weird. We're going to go ahead and bring everything to one side. So subtracting 256 from 32, I'm going to get negative 224b squared. And then subtracting out negative 256, so negative 256 minus 32 to bring that other b term on the other side will give me negative 288. B is equal to 0. We definitely have a common factor between them. It's a large number. It's definitely going to be negative, so let's pull out a negative. 288 and 224. It's a really big problem. We can keep on dividing out by 2. Let's look at 18. 224. 18. Divided by 8. 288 divided by 8. So let's just pull out an 8 to begin with. Let's see if that helps us out. We can get 224 gives me 28b squared minus 36b is equal to 0. We can pull out another factor of, I believe, let's see, 28 and 36 by 4. Let's get this by 4. So this would be 32. So 4 would be 7b squared minus 36 and 4 is 9. Oh, 36 and 4, just to make sure, is 9b. We can do one more step. Let's pull out that b. So let's do 32b, 7b minus 9 is equal to 0. So we're almost done here. In this case, if we set these both equal to 0, we have one equation, b is equal to 0. And the other equation, if we set this equal to 0, b will be equal to 9 over 7. Okay. So check that out. Do it again if you need to. The terms that we're getting on here when we're using simplification, the easiest way that I can remember to do this was be able to look at the square root symbol. These are both sharing square roots. So we're going to look at the square root symbol and just write out the square root terms. This is 1 times 1 is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared 9. 4 squared 16. 16, let's see, 5 is 25. 6 is 36. 7 is 49. And I think we can just stop there because the numbers are less than 48. How do I write 48 as a term of two values? I can use one of these values up here. I believe it's 48 and 3. So let's just do, let's see, 16 and 3 is one of them. The other one I think I know is 9 and 3. So we're going to be able to simplify this out one step further. by splitting them apart. 16 root 3, root 9 times root 3. We're going to get 4 root 3 plus 3 root 3. And then because they share almost the same, or we can pull out a square root symbol. Let's see, 4 and 3 with the square root on the outside gives me just 7 root 3. So that's my answer for that. Definitely want to be able to do that. If it was cube root, I would have wrote out cubics. So let's see, 8, 27, 64, all the way up to those ones. But in this case, because it's just square root, we can just write out square terms here. That takes care of that one. We can always stop and pause and go back. The last one we're going to go ahead and cover is simplifying and factoring by grouping. Definitely want to be able to do these ones. So we're still should be some review. The first thing that I always like to do is group anything that you can start out with. That's the easiest thing to do because they might be scattered. So if they're in the same row, our 3x minus 4 y to the 4th is still going to stay the same. There's nothing up there that we can group. The one on the bottom only changes because we have both of these x to the 4th, x to the 3rd. So let's group those. We have our 3 and 2 is going to give me 6. Our x is going to give me x to the 7th. And then I'm just going to get that y to the minus 1. And that negative exponent, or the inverse portion of it, we want to be able to flip. So whatever is negative, if it's on the top, it's going to go to the bottom. It's going to go on the bottom, it's going to go to the top. So this y of negative 1 is going to go on top. The x of the negative 4 is going to go on the bottom. So when we do that, we're going to simplify out, and we can reduce the fraction, the numbers later. But I'm just going to get the y to the 4th on top, moving that y to the 1st on top, and I'll rechange that to that green color so you guys can see it. The x to the 7th is going to stay the same, so we don't change that one. But that blue one, the x to the 4th, is going to go on the bottom. So we can now do our simplification and grouping one last time. 3 goes into 6 2 times, so I'm going to leave that bottom one 2. I can group my exponents now to y to the 5th, leaving that 2 on the bottom. My x terms becomes x to 7 plus 4, it's 11. And we can't reduce it any further, so we leave it as that. That's what we want to be able to see and concisely give us. Okay? I don't want you to leave it in any negative, so if there's a negative, kind of simplify that down if we need to, but you can leave it as in fractional form. The problem to the right, we want to be able to use by graphing, or sort by grouping. What I'm going to plan to do is I'm going to split this down the middle and group my terms separately. So I'm going to pull up the greatest common factor between them. Our GCF for the left-hand side is going to be x squared. That leaves me with 6x plus 1. So that might be one of our terms. If I had to pull up the GCF to the right-hand side, again, I believe it's my, ooh, did I make a boo-boo here? Let's see, 2. Is this a good one for us to use? Let's check it out. Negative 5 is going to give me 6x plus 1. Oh, it works out. Never mind. Freaking out over nothing. We have our 2 terms that we're going to kind of pull on the side. This is one of our factored terms, so we're going to leave this the same. And then our final term is going to come from both of these as a factored term. So we're going to get 2x squared minus 5. And we're going to leave it as that. The thing that you guys want to see is that this can be factored. And a lot of you guys didn't see that. It might be a difference of squares. But in this case, we're going to leave it as that. If we can factor a little bit further, we can do that. But if not, we're going to leave it. So this is a review for you guys. You've done little quick problems. These are great problems for you guys to review. Again, looking at these methods, we have completing the square, any 3 different types of methods. So complete the square, quadratic equations, solving equations, solving quadratics by factoring, and then the other types of problems using square roots. We had word problems, which is especially like mixture problems. So mixing solution 1 with solution 2 to create an alloy. fruit juice A, fruit juice B to create a concentration. Quadratic inequalities we've done already. Absolute value inequalities, which involve us writing the equivalencies of the inequalities, making sure that we're aware of the less than greater than symbol. Writing equations, being able to look at them and graph them, given the center and the point, or convert into standard form, which is complete in the square. We also have writing a line from a given point, which is parallel and perpendicular. Parallel means that the slopes are the same. Perpendicular is opposite reciprocal. And then we have the final review from the first test, which is simplification of exponents, simplifying radicals, and difference of cubes, which we're okay not doing. We're going to cover those in a little bit later. So this is a review, guys. I hope you guys have a good day. Good luck on tomorrow's team test. If you guys have any questions, let me know. All grades will be submitted shortly. All grades have been entered, and you guys are good. Okay. You guys have a good day, guys. Stay safe. Study hard. We'll see you. Bye.